Out behind the counter, Miss White called all of the clerks to her and said, "Quickly, before we open this morning, I want to introduce Mr. Chad Johnson. He will be my new temp while my secretary is out on maternity leave. This morning, I want him to work with you, Francine, and you, Marcia. This afternoon, we'll pick two more of you to teach him. Teach him well so he can relieve you for breaks." The person Miss White had pointed to as Francine came to me and said, "Let's get to my window and start. Just listen and watch while I do the first one. I'll explain each form as I go along so you'll have an idea." Her area was neat and orderly. On her right was a set of bins like you would see at a post office where mail was sorted into. Each bin was labeled with numbers 1 through 60. Wow, 60 different forms. The first person was a girl that had been laid off from Albertsons, as they had closed some stores. Francine pointed at a form that was under glass on her counter. Under her nail, it said standard first file listing the number 1. Francine reached up to the top left of her sorting bins and pulled out form number 1. She handed it to the girl and said to go fill it out and come back to the window and wait till Francine was done with the person she was helping. Francine turned to me and said, "It'll get busier and the form's harder. Just wait for it." She looked down at her computer and it had a number flashing on it. Francine pointed at that number, picked up her phone and dialed, announcing over the PA the number that was flashing on the screen to come to her counter number. The next soul came to the window, told about the same story, and received form number 1 and was told to go fill it out. When someone came back with the form filled out, the information was typed into the computer. The screens were easy and had directions throughout. This went on until 10 when Francine said, "I guess you can handle this 15 minutes. I'll be right back." I was able to handle a citizen and a half before Francine got back. She took over and told me to go to the next booth to relieve a girl named Betty. Betty turned the window over to me, halfway through going through a filled-out form telling me she would be back. At 10:30, I moved another notch down and relieved Mary. And at 10:45, I relieved June. When I went back to Francine at 11 o'clock, she took me to Marca, who said, "You're lucky, Chad. You only have to work with me for an hour before I go to lunch. I suppose Monsieur White will take you for another interview and get you back on time." I said, "She doesn't go till almost 1 o'clock. Marca said, "She is the smart one around here." Ms. White and I did go to lunch together again. She asked me about my military career and commented that her husband had wanted to be career Air Force, but his football career interrupted that plan. When we returned to work, she put me with another set of clerks to work with. By 5, I was tired and my stub was sore from being on my feet all day. Ms. White told me to see her in the morning and she would give me a time card to use from now on. When I got to the apartment, the front door was open and good smells greeted me. I walked in and Shirley said, "Open a couple of beers and sit. Supper is just about ready." I had just sat down with a couple of beers when Shirley brought 2 plates with meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans. She put a bowl of gravy on the table and sat down. "How's that?" Good timing, if I do say so myself. We ate and chatted with Shirley telling me the apartment complex gossip and commenting on the clothes she had laundered. She said, "I separated your clothes into groups in your closet so you know what goes with what. I'll switch the ties around so you will give a different appearance most every day." After supper, I did the dishes while she took the clothes I had worn that day with her as she went to do more laundry. She was a hard worker. It seemed she put in a long day, almost every day. When I went outside to find Shirley to tell her I was going for a ride, she said she was going to stay home because she thought her old man would call early tonight. I rode around the city sightseeing and made my way back to Jonas. There I had a beer, shot some pool, joked with the barmaid, and had a fun conversation with Big Millie. I asked her where there was a lifestyle gym and she gave me directions to the nearest one, saying, "I go every evening after work. I go from about 5:30 to 6:30 or 7. I probably ought to eat first, but I eat afterward. Perhaps tomorrow I would eat later and go to the gym after work." I had my gym shorts, shirts, socks, and sneakers, so I didn't need to buy anything. I planned on going the next night. After parking the bike and going inside the apartment, I found a note from Shirley on the counter that said she would see me in the morning. I laid out my gym clothes and sneakers so they would be ready in the morning and went to bed. I slept well. I woke up to a soft and gentle greeting. When I opened my eyes, Shirley was smiling at me. She told me to take care of breakfast before she made mine. I tried to pull her close, but she gave me a quick kiss and told me to get ready for work. She promised to have breakfast ready as soon as I shaved and showered. For breakfast, we had pancakes and sausages, a good meal. Shirley noticed the gym clothes on the dresser and asked when I planned to go. I told her I was thinking of going after work. Sort of on the way home, so I'd stop by for an hour or so, getting home around 7 o'clock. If that was too late, I could start waking up earlier and go in the mornings, but I needed to keep up with my rehab. She said, "Okay, I'll plan on us eating around 7 then." "That'll work, because I can probably finish all my laundry before you get back from the gym." Then she paused and asked, "Do you want me to pack a couple of meatloaf sandwiches for you today?" I made a big meatloaf so there would be enough for sandwiches and another meal. I agreed, saying, "Sounds good. That'll save me the price of a Cuban." The day was different than usual. In the morning, I spent time typing up a bunch of letters for Ms. White, as well as answering calls for her. Most calls I passed on to her, but some were just irrelevant solicitations that had nothing to do with business. I did the mid-morning breaks and later ate lunch with Julie Preston at our desks. She told me all about working for the state agency and that it was pleasant to have someone across from her that was there to work and not just gab all day. Neither one of us gave out any personal information, but we had a decent chat while eating. She left to go somewhere for the rest of her lunch hour, so I went to the group that was in charge of finding prospective employers to see what kind of jobs they had available. Larry, a guy with a lot of female mannerisms, gave me a ton of information. He was actually pretty. If he had been wearing women's clothes, I probably would have flirted. As it was tempting, except that it kept coming back to the fact that he was a guy, not a girl. Later, back at my desk, Julie said, "I heard you met Larry. Did he make a pass?" Sort of, but not overtly. He was very nice and helpful. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but if he had been wearing girls' clothes, I might have flirted. Julie laughed. "He is cute. I bet he doesn't have any problems finding boyfriends." After work, I fought traffic to the gym and had to go through registration confirmation at the desk. This was this location's first VA registration, so they had to keep making calls on how to handle the paperwork. It took 45 minutes for the but I still wanted some exercise. I changed and used the treadmill for 20 minutes, getting a ton of stairs because of the shiny metal extension on my right leg. I used the machines for 15 minutes before I grabbed my clothes and headed home. Millie never did show up. I made the mental note to get a gym bag and lock for a locker. Shirley had supper waiting. We had warmed up meatloaf, boiled potatoes, and corn. After supper, Shirley asked if I was going riding, and I said I might. She said she wanted to go with me if I did. So I told her that we would do it after we both got on some riding clothes. When we took off, Shirley gave me directions to another bar back toward downtown. The place was a more commercial biker bar that was fairly standard, except this one had a liquor bar instead of just beer and wine. Shirley introduced me to several people as new to the area and her new neighbor. I noticed that several of the guys were wearing colors of a national club. It wasn't uncomfortable, but I sure knew I was being sized up. When it was getting late, I told Shirley it was time to go. She said one of the guys there would give her a ride home, so I nodded and left. I had been home for about 45 minutes and was in bed already when I heard a bike come up out front and leave. Less than 5 minutes later, Shirley came in the back door and crawled into bed. That was perfect. I let one of my old man's brothers give me a ride home, so when he checks up on me, he'll hear that you weren't acting like you were owning me. The guys even asked me to tell you that you were welcome to come by their clubhouse if you wanted. I told them you were a vet with a bad leg, and they said you were still welcome. If you want my advice, you can be friends with those guys, but don't go joining a bike club. Too much trouble. Shirley began acting playfully before bed. I wasn't naive. I knew what she was getting at. A bit of affection before sleep sounded nice. As things progressed, Shirley paused and handed me something, saying, "Use this. It'll help you last longer." We shared a close moment full of energy and movement, and after it was over, I got up to take care of things. Back in bed, Shirley remarked with a chidel, "And no mess this time. Less laundry for me." Friday morning, I was up early, had breakfast, and made it to work by 7:45. Julie came in and asked, "Want some coffee?" "Sure," I said. "Where can I grab a cup?" "Come with me, I'll show you the lunchroom." Mrs. White should be doing this, but she's slacking today. Julie led me to the lunchroom where Larry stood at the fancy coffee machine. When he saw me, he quickly poured a cup. I handed it to Julie, and Larry, visibly flustered, poured another one for me. CC cream or sugar? He asked in a husky tone. Black is fine, I replied. Then I turned to Julie. Can we drink coffee at our desks? Larry lightly touched my arm and said, Sure, you can have drinks at your desk. Just be careful not to spill anything on the keyboard or phone. Julie was stifling a laugh at Larry's enthusiasm, but I gently closed the moment with, I'll grab a cup for M. White too, and then we'll head back. Got a ton of work to get through today. Larry looked a little disappointed, but it was nearly start time anyway. I had just set Ms. White's coffee on her desk when she walked in. Well, thank you, Chad. That was thoughtful. I could use coffee this morning. Miss White, I keep forgetting to ask, where do I get my time card? And where's the clock? Oh, shoot. I forgot to give you one. Well, it's Friday, and you'll be preparing the new cards soon, so I'll just jot one down for your first 3 days. Today ends the current pay cycle, so you'll get your first paycheck next Friday. On Monday, we'll go over how to fill out time cards and run payroll. The state prints the checks that aren't direct deposit. They usually arrive by Thursday or Friday. For now, get started on whatever's on your plate, and I'll bring you the materials. M. White came to my desk in about 10 minutes to have me access a program on our network. She gave me her password to get into it and had me access the list of current employees. We went through the names as she checked them off her list. My name was in the J's, so I was happy to see I was already entered into the system. Miss White stopped me at my name and typed in my 3-day hours and entered my rate of pay, where she entered $14 instead of $12. She looked at me and smiled. You've been to work on time and have completed everything I asked. Plus, I'm told you are an asset out at the counter. You deserve more than 12. They had a special printer for time cards. Miss White showed me where the cards were stored. We watched as the little laser printer spit out cards at phenomenal speed. When it was done, Miss White took me back by the lunchroom and showed me the time clock in the rack where the cards were displayed. All were labeled alphabetically using the person's last name, except for an area labeled temps. Put the cards into the spaces labeled. Then, for the cards with the red printing at the top that say temps, you can put those in any order. Put the new ones behind the same names on this week's. She reached up and pulled off 3 names and said, Those 3 no longer work here, so if you have a card for any of them, just bring it back to me. By the time I was finished with the time cards, it was time for me to give the morning breaks. So I hustled out to the counters for the 10 o'clock break. An hour later, I went back to give Miss White the 3 cards that were extra from the people who no longer worked for the department. In a blink of an eye, it was lunchtime, and Julie said, Let's eat in the lunchroom. I'm dying to see what Larry does next. I don't know, Julie. It's not nice to tease someone like that. You may get the wrong idea, and I have to tell you, I really like what women have to offer. It'll be all right. I'll protect you, Julie said. Besides, you need to meet some of the other women who work here. There are some really nice, cute single girls that work here too. As much as that matters, there are some married women that will do more than flirt with you as well. My lunch today was 2 meatloaf sandwiches. Again, that meatloaf went a long way. Today, I also had a Coke, a bag of chips, and a good time talking to and being flirted with by lots of women. It was already common knowledge that a disabled vet was a temp for Ms. White. They knew I was single, that I had lost a leg, and all my personal information. How do you guys know so much about me? I asked in general. A cute little black chick across from me blushed and said, You're in the computer. Everything you put on your application is there, so any of us can read it. Julie quickly said, We're not supposed to use that information for personal use, but it's okay for us to just look. I nodded, smiling, and continued eating. Julie said, As you can see, he doesn't talk much. It's amazing how much more work I get done with him over there instead of our girl Gabby. When she comes back, she'll be so full of stories, it'll take a week before I get anything done. The little girl across from me asked, Are you going out doing anything tonight or tomorrow night? I looked at her trying to figure out why she would ask. Probably why. Do you want to take me somewhere? This time she really blushed. I always think it's cute the way black chicks blush. They are more purple than red. Depending on how dark-skinned they are, maybe some of us girls here are going out to Hard Rock tonight. You can meet us out there if you want. They have a neat nightclub that has some good music. Plus, you can play the machines if you want. They even have card games out there. That might be a little rich for me right now. I should probably keep a lower profile for a while until I get some money ahead. As far as gambling, that's a definite no for a long while. I've never been lucky gambling. The little girl didn't let up, though. So, what will you do? You said you might go out. I might ride a few places, have a beer here and there, meet some people, shoot some pool. Larry said ride to some places. How are you going to ride on my Harley? I said smugly, proud of my bike. Oh, Larry groaned. Be still, my heart. The man even rides a Harley Davidson. The little girl said, Oh, Larry, get over it. You can tell Chad likes girls. Another girl next to the talkative one said, How about giving me a ride tonight? You can take me to Jonah's or even to a couple of other biker bars I know. I can show you around. The little black girl glared at the girl sitting next to her. I thought we were going to try to get him to go out with all of us. You want to hog him? Well, he said he couldn't afford the Hard Rock. I might as well put my dibs in to show him around. The little black girl asked, Can you only ride one person at a time on your motorcycle? Yep, only one at a time. When I do, let someone ride with me. Larry said, Would you give me a ride? I can show you some interesting places and some interesting bars. I laughed. I'm sure you can, Larry, but I might not be very comfortable at some of the places you like. Don't knock it until you've tried it. Honey, Larry said sexily. The girl next to the black girl said, Quit it. Larry, you're being too aggressive. You'll never get a guy acting like that. Well, you two are being pretty aggressive, Larry said defensively. I should be able to ask too. I had finished my lunch, so I asked, How about you two telling me your names, and then we can decide where at the Hard Rock I should meet you? I can't afford a long night in an expensive club, and I don't have fancy clothes, but I'll go out with you guys for a while tonight. The little black girl beamed, Great, I'm Tiani. The white girl with the blonde hair next to her said, I'm Judy, and you can wear what you have on, but you don't have to wear a tie. 3 more girls came over and introduced themselves. A dark brunette was Brandy. Another dark-skinned girl was Nora, and a light red head with lots of freckles. And a happy smile was Frida. I looked at them all and said, I take it you are all at least 21 and legal. They all nodded in unison. If they weren't so serious looking, I would have laughed at the synchronized head movement. When and where? Tiani said, I can pick you up if you don't want to drive. Brandy said, I have a new car. Why don't I pick you up? Before someone else said anything, I said, Tiani asked first, So I'll ride with her. Why don't some more of you ride with her too? That way there won't be so many cars there. Nora said, Look, guys, I can use my dad's van. How about I take all of us in the van? There's only 6 of us, and it will hold 7. I had to remind them, Remember, girls, I can't afford to drink all night. I just started work and haven't earned anything yet. You know where I'm living, and that's why I'm living there. It's what I can afford right now. There's nothing wrong with where you live, Chad. Frida said, We are all roommates and live in a big house together. With 6 of us, we can afford to live in a fancy area with a pool. You'll have to come out to swim. Can you do that with a fake leg? I take it off to swim, Frida. Okay, girls, I'm in apartment 22 across from the manager's office. When will you pick me up? Tien looked at Nora. Nora said, I'll pick up Dad's SUV on the way home. How about we pick you up around 8 o'clock? The first show doesn't start till 9 o'clock, so we'll be there in plenty of time. Is that okay? Sounds like it's going to be a very late night, girls. Just keep in mind that I can't be a high roller gentleman tonight and buy you all drinks. Brandy said, I'll tell you what, Chad. You've been good about all this, so how about we treat you tonight? We'll all take turns buying rounds. If you make it through 10 drinks, you'll be doing well. I had a thought. Who's the designated driver tonight? You could see I put a cloud over the party. Tiani said, I guess Nora is it. It's your car, so you have to be the one. Nora thought about it, then said, My dad might come out, so I might get him to drive. Now that's something. Frida said, You're going to have your dad chaperone us out to the Hard Rock Cafe while we're trying to get into some guy's britches. Tien protested. Frida, we're not doing that. We're just going out to have some fun with a new guy. Sure, we are. I'm no shrinking violet. I'll tell it like it is. Chad, how about we just skip the Hard Rock and I'll show you my etchings in my room? Julie coughed. That's even more forward than Larry Frida. It's true. Julie Brandy sighed. All of us are looking at Chad and thinking, wow, a clean old looking guy just ready to pluck, and something that rhymes with pluck. We go out looking, and the clowns we find are drunks, or smelly, or dopers, or just plain losers. If Frida is ready to hurt him off for herself, she must be interested considering Tien got in on the complaining. A lot of my type of guys act like we should just fall to our knees and give them BJs just because they're there. They think I'm stuck up because I don't drool over them. Nora looked at me. It's kind of a stretch for you to be interested in Tiani or me, but we're not prejudiced and you don't act like it. We're two fine little girls if I do say so myself. You are all adorable and all very appealing, but I have to tell you, I'm still so new to being out in the world. I don't think I'm in the market for a long-term relationship yet. Brandy said, we aren't either yet. We just want to have a guy or some guys that we can have a good time with that treat us like the ladies we can act like. If we're not ladies when you take us home, we want it to be our idea. Not expected of us. Julie elbowed me. Now that's a compliment and a hell of an invite if I ever heard one. Say yes, dummy. These are some choice girls. I looked at my watch and got up. You know where I live, right, Nora? 8 o'clock. Then I smiled and turned to Frida. And Frida, can I get a rain check on checking out your etchings? Brandy broke in before Frida could answer. Mine too. And yes, you can have a rain check. Frida smiled at me, winked, and nodded. It was my turn to blush. Little Tanny came around the table, she pulled my head down and kissed me on the cheek. You're fun, Chad. I can't wait till tonight. Before leaving the lunchroom, I poured 2 cups of coffee and took them back for Emma White and me. On the way, Julie said, that was something. I've never seen those girls so aggressive. You're going to be the talk of the place before 5. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but you're going to have a rep real quick. Ms. White smiled happily and accepted the cup of coffee. I told her, I've caught up on correspondence and filing. What do you have for me until it's time for me to give breaks? You've done everything. I thought you had more to do before we did the time cards. No, ma'am, I'm done with everything pending. There's really not that much to do. I'll ask Julie. Perhaps I can help her for a while? Monsieur White looked a little funny. My regular secretary is always snowed under. Are you sure you've done everything? Come on out and help me look. I think I've done everything, but I might have missed where more work is kept. Ms. White came out to my desk, looked in the drawers, and looked at the work-pending file cabinet. All my inboxes were empty, my transcription files were complete, and all of the weekly reports that were due Monday were done. I said, I did everything according to the operating manual for this position. I pulled the little flip chart out and went through each of the cards. Ms. White said, Julie, do you have some work that you could use some help with? Chad is caught up on his stuff. Not really, Miss White. Chad is so quiet. We both get a lot more done than usual. I was going to offer to help him get caught up. He's already done all the Monday reports. The only thing he'll have to do Monday is the payroll, and that doesn't take long. Come with me, Chad, Ms. White said. Let's go see someone. We walked through the office to the far corner where Ms. White told the secretary that she wanted to see Mr. Harkins. The lady used her phone before saying, Go on in. Mr. Harkins can see you. Hi, May. Good to see you. What can I do for you? The man said as he turned to me, extending his hand. I'm Jordan Harkins, and you are? I said Chad Johnson. Jordan Harkins said, Please sit down and tell me what I can do for you. Ms. White said, It's what I can do for you, Jordan. I want you to get to know Mr. Johnson. He came on board Wednesday as my temp secretary. You know, my girl has been out on maternity leave since last week. My department puts out a lot of paper. I dictate a couple of dozen letters a day, and I know I push out 50 or so pieces of paper a day to be filed. In the short time he's been here, Chad has learned the counter to give breaks. Plus, he is totally caught up on my dictation, all the filing, and all of the reports due out from my department through Monday. My office has never been this caught up. I've already stepped Mr. Johnson, but we need to find him a job with more responsibility. Jordan Chad is doing far more than could be expected. I see Medi. Perhaps you could talk to some of the other department managers, and your man could assist their secretaries and catch them up. Yes, sir, Miss White said. I can do that, but I think we might wish to use Mr. Johnson for some of the outside positions that are open. Does he meet the qualifications? Jordan asked. That's the problem. All of those positions require a degree, and Mr. Johnson has not attended college. He was recently released from the military because of an injury. I think we should find him a demanding position and waive the degree requirement. You can do that, Jordan. Omi, you're always bending some rules for one of your people. Jordan folded his fingers together on his desk and said, I have an investigator position that reports directly to me that I haven't been able to fill. You know, it is a delicate job that has to be handled discreetly, but is necessary sometimes. Do you think he could fulfill that position? Easily, Jordan. If you want, I'll spend the rest of the day briefing him on the job. He could begin with some of your backlogged small investigations to learn the way. Jordan turned to me. Chad, the position I'm referring to involves investigating the hiring practices of some medium-sized companies to determine if there are any areas where they might not be following equal opportunity guidelines. Your role would be to discreetly interview their HR personnel, build rapport, and report your findings. It's important that you document your interviews thoroughly so we can follow up with companies that may need attention. You'll also ensure that larger companies are adhering to the necessary legal documentation and reporting requirements. This is a sensitive role, and you'll report directly to me with copies sent to Ms. White. She personally handles your reports, bypassing her secretary. It's going to be a demanding job as we're currently over 6 months behind on our work. You will be provided with an agency vehicle for daily use, and travel expenses will, of course, be reimbursed. He paused for a second, looking at me, and asked, What do you think? Sounds interesting. Will I still be a temporary employee? Monsieur White was shaking her head. No, but Jordan said, Yes, you will for at least 60 days. That will give me time to evaluate your performance. I had to ask if I am still a temporary. That means I can still look for employment. I mean, this will give me an opportunity to do some job shopping if I'm correct. Jordan huffed a little. Well, you would be employed by us during this time. You should be giving a 100% effort and not job shopping if I put you in a position like that. But sir, if I'm but a temporary employee, paid like a temporary employee, with no guarantee of a possible future here, wouldn't I be dumb not to look for a permanent position somewhere? The man leaned back in his chair, then said, Mr. Johnson, if you will excuse us, I'd like to speak to me for a few minutes. Miss White said, Go back to the department and perhaps assist Julie. You'll be relieving for breaks in a few minutes anyway. I left, and since it was really time to be on the counter, I passed by Julie and told her I was on the way for relief. She came with me as she relieved for people as well. I saw some of the fabulous 5 down in that area. The 5 girls came to mind, and I automatically began thinking of them in a happy way as the Fab 5. They were pretty funny and obviously fed off each other when they were in a group, one trying to be more outrageous than the other. When the breaks were over, Julie took me to the break room. You're supposed to take your break when you finish with the counter. I noticed you haven't been taking a break lately. That's an extra half hour a day you're using to get work done. That's why you're so far ahead. Back in the department, Miss White called me into her office. Close the door and have a seat, Chad. She leaned over her desk and said, What you just witnessed is what you would be investigating. You just witnessed discrimination. Jordan wants a man of color to have that position, but we haven't found one to fill the spot yet. He felt he could put you in the position temporarily, then let you go when he found another man to his liking. I've just finished telling Jordan exactly what I'm telling you, so it's no secret that I'm letting you know. Now he's embarrassed that he's been so obvious about his prejudice. I've already heard how you interacted with Tiani and Nora and are going out this evening with a group of them. I'm proud to know you, Chad. You are a gentleman and you are not prejudiced. You would make an excellent investigator and should be paid the normal salary and not temp wages. Because of Jordan's prejudice, I don't want you to work for him. He's agreed to let you have the military human resources job and waive the degree requirement. That might be a better place for you anyway. The job pays decent too. Remember, this is a federal job with federal benefits. 1, you get a clothing allowance, as you are to dress impeccably to impress prospective employers as well as the ex-military people you will assisting. 2, you will be given a per diem for meals and expenses for prospective employers as well as the people you will be finding jobs for. 3, you will be issued a cell phone for work only, so you can be reached while you are in the field. That's how the lady who is working here scammed everyone. And 4th, probably the most important to you right now, your annual starting salary is $45,700, about $3,800 a month. Do a good job, and you can go way up from there. She looked me right in the eye and asked, "Would you work for me in that position?" The thought of how important a job it was going to be had my head spinning. Thank you for the confidence in me, ma'am. There's no way I can turn down a job like that. I think I'll need a lot of your help for a while to figure out how to do a good job. You would have that anyway, Chad. That is one of our more important positions considering all of the men and women coming out of the service right now. If the new president cuts the defense budget very much, there could be a lot of men looking for work. The neat thing is that you can work with all of the other advocates in all of our offices nationwide to find available positions for them. You should be a perfect match for the job considering your history. I want to work for you, Miss White. Teach me and I'll make you proud. She sat back in her chair, smiling, and said, "I'll teach you, but you'll have to call me Medi. You and I will be a lot less formal now that you are in this new position." Maye leaned forward and began typing into her computer. When she finished, she smiled at me. "You are now an official employee of the USA with all of the benefits that go with it. In 90 days, you will be offered health insurance, but you already have federal benefits for that. Ours may be easier to use, you'll have to choose. Also, now that you are a federal employee, you will be eligible for any other federal position you may be qualified for. I do suggest that you begin night classes or some form of degree course. You will progress faster within the agency and any other government office if you were to do that." It was as if another big weight was off me. This was more money than I really was going to need, but it was enough that if I wanted, I could find a better place to live. Right now, I should just save some money, and that felt good. As some paper spit out from her printer, she pulled the sheets to her to read. Meat said, "Okay, here's your first 6 months clothing allowance and 2 weeks per diem. Any extra you have to spend on others. Please document everything and be sure to get receipts so you can be reimbursed. You'll have a credit card soon, but this should hold you for now. Go out to the cashier and present this to her. She'll give you cash or a check or some of each, however you want. Now, since you are a salaried employee, get the hell out of here. Get your money and run. Go home and enjoy your weekend. I'm going to need some help buying the right kind of clothes. I'm not very fashion conscious and I haven't bought lots of clothes for dress. I've been a uniform guy with just jeans as my casual dress." Me looked at me a second and wrote something on one of her cards. "This is my cell phone. Call me tomorrow and I'll go with you to pick out some clothes. We'll get you some nice clothes at a discount. I know where the smart guys go to get quality stuff. Perhaps my husband will come along. He's a real classy dresser." "I'll do that. It should be reasonably early tomorrow." "Okay, I'd like to get that out of the way. Thank you for helping me so much. It's my pleasure to help someone progress. I'm going to have you help me anyway, so don't thank me too much yet." I left, said goodbye to Julie, and headed toward the cashier. The lady looked at my letter and began asking how I wanted the funds. I told her I didn't know how much it was. So she said, "You get a $54 a day per diem, but you should only draw like 40 until you get your personal accounting set up. Your clothing allowance for your first 6 months is $3,270. I was staggered. How about $2,500 in cash and the balance in a check so I can deposit it? Coming right up. Do you need some money to take those girls out tonight? It's not my money. I have to buy clothes and have money for expenses. I can't use that money for tonight. I can use some of my savings, though, now that I have a real job. That you can, Chad. Have a good time with those girls tonight and be safe. Don't be drinking and driving. I heard what you were telling them, and that was good to hear. Congratulations on the new job. I'll look forward to working with you. I signed for the money and check and headed to the bank in my '95 Chevy S10. Funny, isn't it? Goodwill to Gucci in a week. The bank posed the next problem. I asked for the head teller as I figured she would help me the quickest. After explaining my problem, she suggested I get a bank debit card. She could have one issued to me immediately that I could access just like a credit card. When I filled out the form, she suggested I apply for a credit card as well. If I were to go over my deposits, the credit card portion would kick in so I wouldn't be overdrawn. I told the head teller that I had just gotten out of the service and had only been employed a few days. I told her my new position with the salary and that the money I was depositing was clothing allowance and PDM. All of a sudden, I was being shown a lot more attention and a lot more courtesy. It was right this way, sir. And can I get you something, sir? And how else can I help you, sir? It was almost too funny for words. They gave me the debit card that had a $5,000 credit limit. I didn't care about the credit limit, but now all of my money in both the checking and savings was available when I needed it. Before I left the bank, I asked the branch manager if he had any positions open and who I could contact at their home office for job opportunities for veterans returning to civilian life. The man gave me several names, plus a handout with the corporate hiring information. He said confidentially, "If you have anyone that might be interested in a starting teller position, I have openings plural right now. Send me some good people and let me get them started in the banking industry." I took his personal card and said I would get back to him. Knowing that a teller position was not the highest paying position around, I understood how they could be open. But it just goes to show you there are jobs available, just not a bunch of big buck jobs. That's not true either. I was just given a big buck job just for doing what I was being paid for and was supposed to do. At the apartment, I noticed a filthy Harley sitting outside apartment 25 and wondered if this was as a result of last night. The front door was locked, but Shirley was at the counter putting something together for supper. "You're home early? How come?" I opened the fridge and pulled out a beer. "Got a new job today and was sent home early. Is it a better job?" "You betcha." I smiled. "It's going to be a good job. They even gave me money to buy clothes. I won't be able to help you for a couple of days." My old man showed up this morning. I saw a bike out front. He should butt it in the back. Take the chain so he'll have it, and I'll go to Home Depot and get another chain and lock. Shirley nodded. "You don't mind if I feed him too, do you? I'll eat less to make sure." "Okay, no problem, Cheryl. Around here we all eat. Should you go get him so I can meet him or what?" Shirley thought a second. "No sense in waking him yet. He rode all night to get in. He'll wake up and I'll get him a beer and feed him." "He doesn't know I'm cooking for you to get fed myself, but I'll tell him later. It's a good enough deal. He ain't going to thank God. He slept soundly enough that I was able to get all the laundry done I needed to do." Shirley put a big pan in the oven, then stood up and said, "That has to cook for an hour before we can eat. I'll get him up soon, but you go to the store and get your chain and lock, and I'll take this back to the apartment. You ain't going to have a bed warmer for a while. Get used to it or get some auditions." I laughed at the audition reference. Actually, a bunch of girls from work are taking me out to the Hard Rock tonight on them. I told them I couldn't afford to take myself out there and for sure not a bunch of women, so they are taking me. I might get lucky. Who knows? Are you a gambler? No way. I don't gamble my money. Not when every day of life is a gamble and probably higher stakes. I'm glad. Shirley said, "Gambling, drinking, narcotics. That's how a body gets in the poorhouse. That's why I'm doing laundry and turning tricks. That's why I'm ashamed of myself all the time." A tear ran down her face. "Don't be hard on yourself, Cheryl. You said it the other day. You do what you gotta do. Just keep doing a little more for me, like keeping the house and keeping my clothes up, and I'll pay you decent. Don't be turning any tricks while I'm around. Do your laundry and housekeeping, and there will be enough for you. Perhaps your man will settle down and stay this time." Shirley was sitting on a stool with tears coming hard. "The other day, one of the guys that uses me came by, and I just spread him for an easy 50. I should have sent him to see one of the other girls, but I just hated to pass up a 50. That's why I made you use a rubber. The guy won't use one, so now I have to go to the health department to get checked again. Damn, I'm one miserable 304. Stop feeling sorry for yourself right now. Get yourself together. Take a six-pack with you with the chain and lock and go wake up your man so he can get cleaned up for supper. I'll go to the store for mine and pick up some more beer. It shouldn't take me more than 20 minutes. I left locking the front door, knowing she would be watching the back. It took all of the 20 minutes to get the chain and lock because the checkout line was so backed up. I got home and immediately chained up my bike, running the chain around the cases and through the wheels. I walked over to the liquor store and bought another case of cold beer. Hate to run out on a weekend. Back in the apartment, I popped a beer and turned on the TV to watch the news. There was a lot about the jobs being created by all the federal projects, but as I saw today, they are jobs, just not people willing to do them or people qualified to get them. I wondered where Jordan was going to get his investigator. Who cares? I had a great position now. That might even be better, especially with the clothing allowance. Shirley came in the back door, followed by a big burly guy with a full beard and balding head. Shirley pointed at me and said, "That's Chad Johnson, the guy who owns that bike out back, and the guy that's been trading out my cooking for my meals." "Chad, this is the Bart Simpson." "I ain't joking, it's his real name." I nodded and reached out to take his offered hand. I went to the fridge and took out a beer, offering it to him. He took it, and I got another one out for Shirley and offered it to her. She took hers, then I got another for myself. Pointing at the bottle on the counter, I said, "You want some Jack to go with that?" "Nah, this is good," Bart said. Shirley went to work on dinner while Bart sat on the couch, and I sat in the big chair. Bart appraised me and said, "Shirley said you were a herd in the service." I nodded and pulled up my pants leg to show my metal leg. "You get around pretty good, but I see you have a cane and a crutch by the door. You need those." "The cane more in the crutch," Shirley said from the kitchen area. "He don't talk much. He'll answer, but like I said, he don't talk much." Bart chuckled. Probably a good man for it, too. "What were you in?" "The Army. Marines. If you don't mind my asking, how do you lose your leg?" "An RPG didn't miss. I hear that all the time." "What's an RPG?" "Rocket-propelled grenade. How close was it?" "My leg was stuck out behind me when the grenade hit the track I was hiding behind." "Track." I smiled. "Field name for a tank, or APC, you know. Armored Personnel Carrier." "Well, at least you had others with you to help." "They all died, but one guy who lost an arm." "How do you keep from getting killed?" "We killed the other guys, but you were both badly injured. We patched each other up and took the dead guys and tracked back to the base." "The radio didn't work, so that's all we could do unless we wanted to just lay there and die." "That's some story. How long were you in the hospital?" "Over there, a week. Germany, a month, and back here almost 11 months. Shirley had set the table and said, "Supper's ready. Come get it." "Hey, thanks, Chad, for letting me eat with you. I guess I should thank you for feeding Shir, too. I ain't too good about sending money." I nodded, then said, "When I eat, others get to eat, too. It's the way I was raised. Besides, your lady does my laundry, and I pay her to keep the place clean, too. She needed the money. I needed the help. You're pretty talkative tonight." "Chad, is it because it's to a man?" "Like you said." "Surely," he asks, I answer. We ate the roast with potatoes and carrots and had some of the cake with the creamy icing for dessert. Shirley washed up the dishes real quick, and I said, "I got a date with a bunch of women, so I have to get ready to go out. I best shave and take a shower, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. If there's something happening somewhere tomorrow, let me know. I'd like to get to know more of the riding community. I'll meet Shada, my brothers. That's the riding community, I know. It's a good club, but I like to roam. I don't do good staying in one place. See you tomorrow." "Surely, if you guys go to Jonah's, ask around to see what's going on. Let me know in the morning." Bart and Shirley left, so I showered and dressed in some clean clothes with one of the neat dress shirts Shirley had picked out. The outfit looked pretty good for some Goodwill or thrift store hand-me-downs. At 7:50, a Chrysler Town & Country pulled up next to my pickup, and 5 girls piled out of the van. Seeing me through the screen door, the bunch came storming in. "Would you look at this? Not bad. And clean, too, for a guy," Frida said. Brandy was standing in the doorway to the bedroom. The bed's made and there are no dirty socks or underwear lying on the floor. Chad might be a candidate for Larry after all. Tiani opened the fridge and said he's only got 2 beers left in here, but there's some leftover pot roast that's still warm. Nora added, there's half a bottle of Jack Daniels, too. Anyone want a drink? Judy, still standing by the door, turned to Chad. Don't mind them. They're just being curious. They can't believe a guy can live alone and actually keep the place decent. Since you're a Marine, I'd honestly be surprised if things weren't squared away. My dad was a Marine, too. He's still super particular about keeping things in order. They kept chatting and taking stock of the apartment while I went around locking the back door, turning off lights, and shutting off the TV. When I reached the front door, I asked, ready to take me to the Hard Rock? Judy put her arm around mine and said, take me, Chad. Take me. The other 4 headed for the van, so I locked up and joined them, sitting in the middle seat. We went to the east side of the city to find the place with a giant guitar outside marking the place. After parking, we walked into the lobby area and in through the casino. The place was busy with lots of people feeding the machines with cards. No coins, just cards on most of them. They had some table games and a big card-playing area that looked to be some kind of poker tournament. Back in through the lounge, passing by a fancy dining area, we arrived in the main nightclub to hear AC/DC beginning their show. The girls knew one of the men at the door because he hustled us straight to a decent table midway to the show stage. A waitress was instantly taking our order while the show was cranking. By the time the group was doing Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, we were on our second drinks and singing along with the musicians and the rest of the crowd. It was a great show and well worth whatever it cost for us to be in there. When the show wrapped up, our third round of drinks arrived and the girls decided it was time for some snacks. They ordered mushrooms, snails, shrimp, oysters, plenty of good food to go with the evening. I was sipping my third beef eater and definitely starting to feel it. Brandy, with her ever-lively energy, was on one side of me, and the charming, witty Tiani was on the other. Across from me sat the enigmatic Judy, casually tapping her foot against my knee beneath the table, trying to get my attention. You all really know how to keep things interesting, even in public, I said with a grin. I love it. Nora, sitting beside Tiani, leaned forward and reached under the table toward me and said playfully, I think I've got a good idea for how I want this night to go. Tiani batted Nora's hand away, chuckling, Don't be so pushy. You might mess up something we're all trying to enjoy. Frida laughed. I know exactly what I'm hoping for later. Brandy chimed in. Let's head to the disco lounge and get some dancing in. Come on. As we got up, I noticed Brandy and Judy speaking with the waitress, who scribbled something on a ticket that Brandy signed. The disco area was packed, but we still managed to snag a table right by the dance floor. I hadn't tried dancing since losing my leg, but it looked like my physical therapy was about to be put to the test. As soon as we sat down and placed a drink order, Brandy grabbed my arm and pulled me onto the dance floor. I tried to explain I wasn't sure I could manage it, but she wasn't taking no for an answer. Brandy started dancing in front of me with high energy, clearly trying to encourage me. I began moving the best I could, using my prosthetic leg to pivot and shuffling in rhythm. It wasn't perfect, but I focused on letting my body feel the music. I even attempted a moonwalk, and the other girls at the table erupted in cheers and applause. I must have done something right. When the music changed, Tiani grabbed my arm and let me back out. I tried another moonwalk, and once again, the crowd responded with claps and cheers. Then came Fredo with a slow song. Thankfully, we moved together in time with the music, her rhythm easy to follow and calming. Next, Nora danced with me to another slow tune, her style smooth and graceful. Judy followed with a dance that shifted between slow and upbeat tempos. By the end of it, I was catching my breath. When Brandy stepped forward for another go, I held up my hand and said, Let me breathe, grab a drink, and take a minute to recover. You ladies are keeping me on my toes out there. It's a workout. Brandy laughed, who said, We want you to keep up. We want the Marine who takes the lead. I grinned. A Marine is always in control, I said. You're just making it a little too easy to forget that. Tien gave me an admiring look and said, You're like something out of a storybook, Chad. A strong, dependable guy who's actually fun. Nora laughed and added, Tanny, you've been reading way too many of those romance novels. Tien giggled. Maybe, but it's fun pretending. We danced another round and enjoyed another drink. Before we knew it, it was already 1:30 a.m., and the girls agreed it was probably time to head home. Judging by their energy, though, it didn't look like anyone was quite ready to call it a night. How about we grab some breakfast at the cafe before heading out? I suggested might be a good way to let the night wind down a bit. Nora nodded. Good idea. I didn't drink designated driver tonight. We can either drop you off at your place or you're welcome to ride along with us. Your call. I looked at the 5 lively girls and joked. There's no way I can keep up with all of you. Guess I'll just head home alone. I smiled. Let's grab some breakfast. My treat. Maybe with food in us, we can all think a little more clearly. We headed to a nearby cafe. Since we made quite an entrance with our laughter and energy, the staff seated us in the back so we wouldn't disturb the other diners. Once the coffee started flowing and everyone had eaten, the group got into a lively, playful debate. Brandy stood up, grinning. Think you can handle hanging out with 2 or 3 of us tonight? Before I could answer, she winked and added, Yeah, I thought 3. Then returned to the group with a triumphant smile. A moment later, all 5 women stood. Judy cheerfully announced, It's settled. You're hanging out with Brandy, Tanny, and Nora tonight. Then tomorrow morning, it's breakfast with Frida and me. You'll be wiped out by Monday, man. Don't I get a say in this? I asked with a laugh. Nope. Brandy replied, You're officially stuck with us until tomorrow noon. I wasn't sure if this was a great idea or a crazy one, but I decided to go with the flow. Worst case, I figured I could always call a cab if things got too hectic. They all lived together in a large, beautiful home in Old Carrollwood. The house had a gated entrance, and they parked right near the front door. Inside, the place was even more impressive. Brandy took my arm and motioned toward the stairs. Tanny, Nora, grab us some drinks and meet me upstairs. I've got the biggest room. Let's go. The next morning, as we were getting ready, Nora asked, Do you have to head home today, or can you stay and hang out? I smiled sadly. I've got to go. I'm meeting up with Ms. White and her husband to shop for some clothes. She's helping me find the right stuff at a good price. Nora perked up. We should go with you, help pick some things out. Tien replied, If we all show up, Miss White might notice something changed from yesterday. Let's keep it low-key for now. Frida nodded and said, All right, let's help him get moving. It's almost 9. As I dressed, they watched with curiosity as I attached my prosthetic leg. Once I had it on and we were heading out, Tiani said, You walked so well last night, you were dancing, even moonwalking. Brandy chimed in. Yeah, and honestly, I forgot all about your leg with the way you moved. It was impressive. Frida added, Same here. You've got such presence, it's inspiring. I had taken a group shower with them earlier, which ended up being more fun than functional, filled with laughter and jokes as we helped each other navigate the crowded space. They had to help steady me a few times due to the tight quarters, and the whole thing felt more like a team effort than anything else. When I was dressed, they all decided to ride with Nora to drop me off at my apartment. They offered to come inside, but I convinced them I needed to contact Ms. White and get going. I promised to see them again Monday, and they took off. I called Ms. White, and she gave me directions to a well-known discount men's clothing store down in the Eeyore Channel district. It was popular among sharp-dressed locals and savvy professionals. I put on my best pair of khakis and a freshly ironed sport shirt. When I arrived, the place looked like a dive from the outside, like an old warehouse, but the parking lot was full of Cadillacs and Lincolns. Inside, it was a packed house of customers and racks of suits, slacks, and shoes. Miss White greeted me alongside a tall man I recognized vaguely. Chad, this is my husband, Reggie. Reggie, meet Chad Johnson, the young man I've been telling you about. Reggie was easily 6 feet 3 or 4, muscular and fit. When we shook hands, his grip was firm but not overbearing. Nice to meet you, Chad, he said. Meddy hasn't stopped talking about you since you started working with her. I smiled. Thanks for helping me with the clothes. I'm not really into fashion. My dress code for years was just a uniform. Reggie grinned. Don't worry, we'll get you set up. Maddie would dress you like a rock star if you let her, but I'll rear in. We'll find something professional, sharp, and age appropriate. You're young, so let's start with some good sport coats and slacks. It took a bit to get the right size of coat, but soon the two of them had picked out a half-ozen, very nice sport coats. My favorite was a herringbone with leather elbows. Reggie said, all I need was a pipe to make me look like a professor. Using the sport coats that we had picked out, Miss White picked out multiple pairs of slacks that went with more than one coat. I was pushing a large cart that had a hanger area that was already full. As we went to the suits there, we only picked out 5 suits, but their manufacturer's suggested price had me nervous. None of them were marked under $500. This had me going back to look at the suggested retail tagged on the sport coats. I quickly totaled up what we had already picked out and held up my hand. I felt a little sick, but said, Miss White, Reggie, I only received $3,000 to buy clothes. I don't have a lot of extra money other than that. We're way over that amount already. Reggie slapped me on my back. Shoot, Chad. You probably haven't reached $1,500 yet? Not to worry. This place is a discount place that sells good stuff at 15 to 20 cents on the dollar. Those Brooks Brothers suits you have there are all marked as being all over $500, and I'll bet none of them is $100. If we go over, we'll trim it down. Don't worry, I was pacified, but still concerned. Miss White went nuts with shirts, and after I had tried on a couple of sizes of shirts, she picked out about 15. We walked over to the shoes where I found a pair of wingtips, a plain type of shoe in brown and black, plus 3 pair of slip-on shoes that were very nice. Ms. White said, the only other thing we might look at is a couple of nice sport shirts. You know, you can wear nice knit shirts under a sport coat and look very professional. Ms. White picked out some gaudy-looking shirts, and Reggie just frowned and replaced them with some very nice solid color knits. The huge cart I was pushing was so full it would barely move. I wasn't worried about paying for the stuff, as if I didn't have enough, I would just put it back. At a checkout register, a man totaled everything, and totally shocked me when he said, your order comes to $2,732.17. Ms. White said, oh, I forgot you need socks. Let me get you some. When she came back, she had at least a dozen pairs of socks. The sales clerk just put them in a bag with the shirts and said, that will be your bonus. Reggie said, this is Chad's first time here, so he doesn't know the rules yet. Pay the man, Chad. Then he'll take you back to the tailor area. I gave the man my card and told him it was a debit card. He looked at it and said, this is a credit card as well. Would you prefer debit or credit? D, please, I said, still sweating over getting out of there without blowing the entire $3,000 allowance. The next part took forever. A man and a woman had me try on every sport coat, every suit, and every pair of pants. One pair of pants apparently didn't fit the way they should, and the lady went out and came back with another pair in a smaller size. When they were done, the man said, I can have 2 suits, 2 coats, and 2 pair of pants by this afternoon. The rest will be done Monday. Please allow enough time to try them on when you return to pick them up. The tailor took down my name and address, and when he asked for my phone number, I said, I don't have a phone, sir. Perhaps I'll get one today. Reggie said, take my cell number. It's 7439292. The 92nd registered then, and I looked hard at him. I didn't want to say anything yet, but I looked back and forth between Ms. White and him, trying to figure out why she was working. When we went out of the store, Reggie said, how about following us down to the parking garage and we'll have lunch at the restaurant? Miss White said, you'll love it. They have a great menu. Please join us. Here, take this bag. This is a welcome home gift as a military man and a welcome to work gift from me. These ties will get you started. You shouldn't do that. That's why I get the allowance, I protested. Miss White just waved her hand at me. Don't worry about it. It'll look like you overspent your allowance twice when people see you dress so well. I nodded and carried the bags of shirts, shoes, and socks to my truck. I followed the Mercedes SL down the street, pulling into the public garage across from an entertainment complex. I parked near their car and caught up to them using my cane to move faster. I said, when I got up to them, when you gave the tour your phone number, I remembered who you are. You're Reggie White, the defensive end from Philly, right? He smiled broadly and nodded his head. Ms. White said, "Most people don't recognize him." "It's nice that you did. We went to a fancy restaurant and were treated very special. Once seated and our drinks ordered, I had to ask, 'Miss White, how come you're working?' 'I'm sure you don't have to for the money.' 'My word, what would I do? Reggie is so busy with his restaurants and real estate offices. I would never see him anyway. I would be very bored staying home every day. This way, I get out, go to different agency offices almost every day, and meet interesting people such as you.' Reggie said it would be different if we were raising kids, but we haven't been blessed with any, so we keep ourselves busy with business adventures. Meddy loves her job and is happy to join me in the evenings at one of my places." "We have a great life, Chad," Mrs. White asked. "So, tell me about your night out with our adventurous group." "We went to the Hard Rock Cafe, but not for the casino. None of us gambled. We watched a great AC/DC show and spent the rest of the evening in the lounge dancing. They had me up for almost every dance. I was worn out by the time we left." "Which girls were they, Chad?" Reggie asked. May answered for me. "You know them. Tiani, Nora, Judy, Frida, and Brandy. Those 5 are always doing things together. They live together. Did you make it home last night or did they kidnap you?" I didn't look up but said softly, "We had an enjoyable evening. Let it go, May. This man is a gentleman, and gentlemen don't tell." "I'm just nosy as all," Miss White said. "Those 5 act so forward sometimes." I was just wondering if they were all mouth and all show and no go. I grinned and blushed, and Mrs. White said, "I'm glad you had a good time with them. You'll have to be circumspect about your relationship with them, as you will be sort of their superior." I nodded but said, "They are all counter customer service people, so I won't be dealing with them much, except to get referrals from them. I suppose you having a relationship with them wouldn't be bad. They are a crazy group. I still wonder why they ended up living with each other in a home." Rye's folks on Judy's folks are equally well off, so you never know. Little Tanny's folks are pretty well fixed. Her dad was an NBA star when he was younger. One of her brothers is a star player at UF. You all will probably go to at least one game during the season. We had a great lunch, but when the time to get the check came, there wasn't any. I asked the waitress for the check as it was my treat, and she laughed and said, "Just enjoy." "Sir, you're with the owner." "Miss White, you said you couldn't buy me lunch, and I'm the one with the expense account." Reggie laughed. "She has nothing to do with it or to say about it. It's my restaurant and my treat. It was great to go shopping with you. Usually it's me that meat is dealing up. I think she uses me and now you as a doll to play dress up. Oh, Reyes, I'm not that bad. I just love bargains and enjoy seeing a man dress nice. Chad will look nice now at half the cost." "That is someplace," I said, describing the store we had been at. "I'm surprised the place isn't mobbed." Ms. White said, "If this were closer to the first of the month, it would have been. A lot of the traffic is there during the week. A lot of businessmen who do not work regular hours show during the day." Reggie said the businessmen she's talking about are all pimps, dealers, or gangsters of one form or another. When you want to shop there, go during the early morning or on Saturday. Better atmosphere. When we left, Miss White reminded me to pick up my clothes before going home, as they should be altered by now. I thanked them for lunch and for showing me where to buy clothes, and for helping me select what I needed. I watched as they left in their fancy Mercedes before I drove back to the store to pick up my clothes. When I went to the pickup register, the one lady who had helped me earlier said, "You're in luck. The tailor thought your entire order was a rush, so all of your clothes are ready for you to try on. Come this way, and let's make sure they all fit. Every coat and every pair of pants fit perfectly." While I was trying on clothes, I realized I didn't have any decent dress belts. So I asked the salesperson if she would pick out a couple of belts for me. She came back with 2 belts and a half dozen more ties, saying, "Miss White didn't get you enough when she was in, so I took the liberty to get you some more. I would want you to look perfect." The additional stuff was next to nothing compared to what I had spent already. It took me 2 trips out to my truck to get the new clothes out there. I should have had them delivered. I drove to the apartment and parked out front and began hauling clothes inside to hang in my closet. Once they were all hung up, I got the shirts unwrapped and unpinned so they could be washed before I wore them. The socks would probably be all right without washing, so I didn't worry about them. I discovered that the store had put some cans of shoe polish and 2 brushes in what they had given me. One was a stiff brush and one was a soft brush for polishing the shoe. The thought was, might as well get the job done now, so I would be ready for Monday. I popped a beer while sitting in the living room area with the TV on, shining my shoes. When I finished with the new stuff, I polished my military Oxfords. Now my clothes were near ready. I looked out back to note there was no bike down by apartment 25, and I noticed that the door was open. I walked down to see if Shirley was busy. She was at her ironing board. Hey Shirley, I have a bunch of new clothes, and when you do a load, my new shirts need laundering. Let me give some extra now so you'll have it for later. She turned to me and I instantly saw she had a big shiner. I'll come get them later. Okay, I want to get this stuff out of here real quick, in case A-hole comes back and is still in a bad mood. Is there something I can do, Cheryl? It's my problem. That guy that I take care of sometimes came by and made a fool of me and pissed my man off. He chased the guy off and decided I needed some discipline. I guess I did to let something like that happen. Anyway, Bart took off, but he didn't take his clothes, so he'll be back. He's probably out at his clubhouse drinking. He'll be back. Do you want some ice for that eye? It doesn't look very good. I didn't duck fast enough. At least we got the black eye over with early in his visit. He gives me one whenever he comes home, but usually waits till he's ready to leave. It'll be fine in a couple. I guess he might leave early since he's pissed. I told him that if he stayed home or at least sent me a little money, I wouldn't need to supplement my washing money. As it is, he found my stash and took it all. Now I'm going to be short when the rent's due. I'll help. I got a new job down at the bureau. That's how I got the clothes. They gave me a clothing allowance, and my boss and her husband just helped me pick out a bunch of new clothes. We were at a place called the Mart. I know the place. That's where all the players buy their clothes, the rough trade around town shop there. Most white guys won't go in there as it's kind of rough. Answering Shirley. I didn't have any problems, and they did treat me nice. Anyway, Shirley, when you have a chance, I have some shirts to launder. When do you want to eat supper? I have our roast in the oven here so I can watch it while I work. It'll be ready around 5. Sounds good. I'm going to the store for some more beer. Can I get you anything? I'm fine, thanks. If you want, you could get some Coke. That would be nice. Done deal. Shirley, I'll have some cold Coke in a few minutes. I did the liquor store run and bought a case of beer and a 12-pack of Coke. That should last a while. It was right at 3 o'clock, so I told Shirley that I was going out to get a phone, but would be back by 5 for supper. After locking up the apartment, I drove to where I had seen a Goodies shopping mall. I found a kiosk that was a rep for several cell companies. I told them that I needed a phone for work and the minutes would cost me an arm and a leg. If I signed up for 2 years, they would give me a phone for free. So I signed up for a medium amount of minutes, took the phone, and went to a Best Buy store that was next to the mall. I didn't want to spend the money for a new PC, so I left, but picked up a newspaper on the way home. I pored over the one ad. They had what was called free Super Saver ads that advertised things that were all $500 or less. I called a couple of the PC ads and found one nearby that sounded good for $150. I drove over to look at the PC and was given a decent demonstration of how well it worked. The best part of the deal was that it did include a printer that was also a scanner, copier, and fax. The guy even gave me a ream of paper for the $150. Now I would have to get the cable company out, but the PC did have a wireless network card. Back home, I set the PC up on the counter and booted it up. The apartment manager was right. Someone had a good wireless router somewhere nearby that was giving me access. No security setting, nothing. I had instant internet. I checked my email and found I had some notes from my guys that were back overseas again. Damn, I wish I were with them. I looked at the employment office website to find that they didn't even advertise that they help returning servicemen find work. I was going to have to round up a bunch of jobs for men and women coming back and getting out. I would also need some part-time jobs for those that needed a little extra money to augment what some guys stationed away from their family sent home to mom and the kids. By the time I had written a long note to one of my old team now in Afghanistan, Shirley was coming in the door carrying a big covered baking pan. Dear listeners, the next part will be out soon.